Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Hope you all had a fantastic Christmas. Obviously, because of the time of year, kind of dipping in and out of live content, but we still bring you 7 days a week of Cardiff City content as promised. Look, the Bluebirds travel to Watford tomorrow. It's on paper, it's almost an impossible task. Cardiff City haven't won a game away all season, whilst Watford are unbeaten at home this season. Watford off the back of a stirring comeback against Portsmouth to score a couple of late goals and get a victory. Cardiff got a couple of late goals, but were nothing more than a consolation, and actually probably undeserved because the performance was so bad. Omar Rhys has some massive calls to make. I think the majority feel now that the attitude and the mentality of large portions of this squad is not right. And ultimately, we are in a relegation battle. We need to win football matches. We need to collect points. And maybe the way to do that is to bring in the 23s, to under 21s who are full of confidence because they're top of the league. They've been playing well. They're scoring goals, playing good football. But most of all, they will fight for the badge. They're keen to impress. They will bring energy. They will bring quality. They will bring a bit of aggression and verve to the team, which is massively lacking currently from this side. As is tradition, we will start with the opponents. And interestingly, Watford line up in a fairly similar, pretty much the same formation as us, or our recent formation. They go with that sort of 3-4-2-1. The difference being, I think, they've got some really dangerous attacking and creative players who are playing quite well, whereas Cardiff have got maybe 1-2 who are decent at their best, but have struggled to find their best form consistently. Watford, I think they'll probably stay pretty much the same again as they were against Portsmouth. Obviously, Barr is out after he was sent off after the game for taunting the fans and his opponents, so they'll make a change there. There's a few very viable and quality options that they can bring in to not really weaken their side, even though he's been a very important player for them this year. It's not the end of the world for them, which kind of shows the strength and depth that they do have. Tom Cleverley's come in. He's doing a very good job after, I think he was an interim manager previously or an assistant. I'm not sure, maybe a player coach. Forgive me. Look, Watford, they haven't won in a while against Cardiff. They've suffered 2 defeats. The most recent back in February, where we beat them 1-0. However, Cardiff are just in this dreadful run of form. Haven't won in 9 matches, I think it is. It's brutal. We were very poor again against Oxford. Yes, we got a couple of late goals, which largely came from combinations from between Keane Ashford, Pacquiao, Robinson, Colwell, sort of all linking up together. And they're the guys that I'd like to see playing. In terms of this, injuries obviously is a big problem for Cardiff. Watford have got to shuffle the pack a little bit. And obviously, because it's a quick turnaround in games, I would expect maybe a bit of rotation. But generally speaking, I feel that, you can kind of pick the mainstay of the Watford side. Jefferson will lead the line up front, but we'll start with the keeper. They'll go Backman in goal, I think. Porteous, Pollock, and Morris will be the 3. And then they'll have Ngakie on the right, Laruki on the left, with Lawser and Kayembe as the 2 midfielders. And then you have Chavat, I can never pronounce his name, Chakvatse, who's a real dangerous player, can drift out wide, drift into those pockets of space, knits it all together really nice, but also comes up with goals, creates goals. Jefferson up front, and then it's that position where Barb would normally play against alongside Chakvatse and provide them with a bit of pace and a bit of guile. So I believe, they've got a few options. It'll be really interesting to see what they do. for me, it all comes down to what side Cardiff play. If he goes with a similar sort of side that he has been doing, I really worry for us, because I think this Watford side, they know this system. They utilise it really well defensively and in the attacking third. And that Chukwueze off Jefferson is a real problem, but also Kayembe and the wide two wing backs, Ngakia and Rhodri, will give them a lot of width and pace and will get forward. They've also got Sissoko on the bench who could play in that central midfield role, who, again, doesn't really weaken them. You know, it's still a very, very strong side. I think it'll probably be Varta who plays in that other number 10 role for them. But yeah, Cardiff have got a lot to do. In terms of the key man for Watford, I'm going to go with Chukwueze. I think he scores goals, he creates goals. He's a really intelligent player. And as I mentioned just a second ago, he's the guy which kind of knits it all together. Excuse my hot water bottle, it's cold. He knits it all together. And if we can keep him relatively quiet, we'll go a kind of long way to maybe keeping a clean sheet, which is desperately needed. But he's not the only player who can do damage. I really like Kayembe in midfield. He's combative, he's aggressive, gets around the pitch, knows his role. And that's the thing, is all these players, they understand the system, they understand their roles. And ultimately, Tom Cleverley's impressed for me because he's round pegs in round holes. He's not trying to force and shoehorn certain players in. He's got his system, and he puts players who are comfortable in that system in the positions, even if that results in some big names as like a Tom Ince or a Sissoko, maybe even a Varta on the bench. But as I say, I think Varta will be the one to come in. But when you've got the likes of Tom Ince, you've got Momo Sissoko, Bayer, Espolo, Serrata. There's a lot of quality in that side. So Cardiff will have to be at their best. But as I mentioned at the top of the show, Omar Rhys has got some real big calls to make. He has to change the attitude and the mentality within the squad. I still stand by that the system suits the players we have at the moment, particularly because we're really lacking pace and wingers in that sort of final third, apart from Callum O'Dowda, but obviously with Ollie Tanner out as well, it provides a big issue. Cardiff have a lot of injuries. You've got Tsunda, you've got Aaron Ramsey, Reindorf. They're all of them are carrying knocks. Reindorf, I understand, is a slim chance he might be ready, but it doesn't look promising that he'll be ready. And most of the previews and reports around say he's out. But Cardiff have got a lot of injuries. This is clear to see. I don't think he'll change the system. I think he'll keep with that 3 at the back. And I actually think it's not the game to change back to a 4 if that was going to be his thought process, simply because you can match up Watford's system. So tactically, that makes a lot of sense. I think Alnwick will retain his place in goal. And then, honestly, there's only 1 or 2 who I'm looking at and I'm saying, no, they've got to stay in the side. Everybody's place is up for grabs, in my opinion. So I'm going to break tradition. We normally go with, we try and predict what Omar Rhys is going to do. But actually today, I'm going to go with the changes that I think he needs to make, regardless of whether you think, you shouldn't chuck these young players in. I think it's time. Because ultimately, if the mentality is not right, which I think is very clear that it's not in some parts of that squad, we're coming into we're in the last week of December, coming into January. We have to find a way to pick up points. So if the mentality isn't right with the majority of these experienced players, let's go with the young players now, so that when it's squeaky bum time at the end of the season, they've got a bit of it. They've got some games behind them. They've got some form behind them. And yes, I'm not saying play 11 under 21s. I'm saying let's use these talented players that we have and make up a bit of a mix. And some of them, whilst young, have got a bit of experience. Will Fish has played men's football regularly. So my 3 for the back would be Jesper Darland on the left of the 3. I think I'm almost going for Darland in the middle with Bagan retaining his place, because I don't think Joe Bagan deserves to be dropped particularly. He's not one of those ones which I think has been poor or his mentality is not right. But I think it's important we bring in Darland and Fish. I think Darland's better on the left. You got Fish on the right. And I think Gutas just about retains his place. I think he's been pretty consistent this year. So I think it's fair that he would give a bit of experience with, Will Fish and Jesper Darland, both relatively young. But in Darland's case, he's inexperienced in this league and in British football. So you have that bit of experience with Gutas, obviously with Callum Chambers and Joel Bagan dropping out. Then on the left wing-back side, this is interesting because, Callum O'Dowda, I think, is one of the few this season to come out with credit for Cardiff City. I think the left wing-back role suits him. So I'm going to leave the left side just for a second while I think about it. In the midfield, I would like to see Joel Colwell and Alex Robertson, but with Joel out on loan, I'm going to go with Rina Moto and Alex Robertson in the midfield. I want to see Alex Robertson really trying to break the lines with his passing and bring the ball forward. And I think that he'll benefit from having a Jesper Darland and a Will Fish behind him, both good passers of the football. Maybe they can help him. They can put one of them can push up into midfield with the ball, and hopefully be able to push forward. On the right hand side, the right wing back, I want to see Ronan Kapakio. Up front, I think you've got to bring in Callum Robinson now. Scored another goal. Hopefully he can start another streak. So I would go with Callum Robinson up front. I would go with Ruben Colwell and Cian Ashford just behind. As I say, Kapakio on the right. And on that left-hand side, I think you've got to go with Callum O'Dowda. Deservedly so. And actually, in Joe Rawls' absence, I would make Callum O'Dowda captain. I prefer to have an outfield player as the captain. And he's shown a tremendous attitude. And he is one of the few, there's been a couple others who've, appreciated the fans who've travelled up and down the country supporting these teams in very difficult circumstances. So, yeah, O'Dowda left, Pacquiao right, Rinamoto Robertson, with Colwell, Ashford behind Robinson. I actually think that Omar Risa will put Robinson alongside Colwell behind Matty. I wouldn't do that, but that's just me. I think Cian Ashford deserves a go and a start. On the bench, though, just to say, I would bring in, I'd have Tom Davis on there again. I'd bring in Louis Giles. I'd bring in Dylan Lawler. And I would also bring in Manny Barton on the bench. So you have genuine options on the bench with the young players. In terms of who I'd keep from the experienced players, I'd probably keep Siopis on the bench because I think he gives a good option if you needed. If you did manage to get a couple of goals, you can sort of defensively be quite solid. Who else would I keep in there? Yeah, like Willock, obviously, if he's available, I'd probably keep him on the bench. With no Reindorf, I think you've got to probably keep Matty or Kanga. But I definitely have Manny Barton in there. I think it's time for a change with this team. And at the end of the day, there's two sides to it, right? One, will the under-21s be any worse than what we've seen this season? Absolutely not. Because I don't think it can get much worse and be much worse. But on the other side of it, I think they give you energy, they give you aggression, they give you pride in the badge, but also they will unite the fans. If the fans see Pacquiao, Fish, Darland, Ashford, Ruben, all in the side with another couple on the bench. If Reindorf's fit, I'd probably go with Reindorf up front to start. And maybe then you look at, if depending on Callum Robinson's fitness, maybe you can drop him into one of the 10s behind, because he's a very streaky striker. Like, he seems to score, 5 in a row, and then he'll go off the boil for a bit. I obviously struggled with fitness. But by all accounts, Callum Robinson, following on from a difficult season last year, his attitude has been really good from what I'm hearing this year, and he hasn't been one of the ones who's, not been with it and not been at it. So if he's fit, I think I'd be looking to probably bring Robinson in. Maybe you can have Reindorf on the bench with Manny Barton on the bench. Like, that's two really exciting young options. You know, Manny Barton's, I think, scored 3 or 4 in the last couple of games. You know, I'm a big believer in playing players and giving players opportunities who are in form. The other thing with the under-21s is they haven't got the trauma and the hangover from this season so far. They are actually quite confident. They've been playing good football. They're, you know, up the top of their league, doing well in the club competition. They haven't got the brutalness of what this season has been for the first team, but they also haven't got that kind of aggro, if you like, between the fans, where the fans are getting frustrated with Cardiff players. Obviously, I think there's been a bit of back and forth in some cases, and I think probably some of those players think the fans have been too harsh. I would say point at the league, point at the performances, and say no, maybe the fans haven't been harsh enough, because they're still following you up and down the country. They're still supporting the team. What they want to see is 100% effort. I said on the live show on the breakdown last night, at the end of the day, if we lose a football match, you know, Watford is a very difficult game. They're unbeaten at home. We haven't won away. So it's a difficult game. But what we want to see as fans is we want to see those Cardiff City players giving 100%, fighting for every ball, every throw-in, every deflection, every 50-50, every loose ball. And then if we come away and we feel like the players have battled for everything and they've got beaten by a better side, then that's okay. I believe the fans will be more patient with the young players. They will get behind the young players. They understand that they're developing and they're part of their sort of football education, if you like. But as we've said now on multiple occasions, and we hear it all the time from the club, you know, this is such a talented group of players. Well, let's play them, because we're never going to know if they're going to make it or they're ready now if we don't play them. You know, another thing which I mentioned on the breakdown yesterday, I've been kind of quite clear that I felt Joel Colwell was better off, you know, staying on loan. The way we are now, the things I'm hearing about transfers and some of the players that we're targeting, I'd bring him back and I'd play him with Robertson, because he offers goals, he offers aggression, he's good on the ball. I think Ruben Colwell looks better when he's got players who are going to run off him. Kean Ashford will run off him. Ollie Tanner runs off him. Callum O'Dowda, I think he links quite well with Robinson. You know, Robertson is capable of finding him. If he's got his brother behind him as well, I think that only promises to bring out the best in Ruben. And ultimately, Cardiff generally look better when Ruben looks sharp and consistent. When he's not in the team or when he's not there, we do tend to struggle. I don't think that Omar Rhys will make the decisions that we've discussed in this video, in the past couple of live shows as well. I really believe it'll be a similar sort of lineup. I don't think that's the right call. And I worry for Omar Rhys that if he loses again to Watford, loses on New Year's Day, I'm not sure that Vincent Tan will take the risk of leaving him there for the rest of the season, because he can't afford to go down. And, you know, to not pick up a point throughout the whole festive period is huge. Like I said, going into the festive period, that if you can pick up a few wins, you'll shoot up the table. But equally, if you don't pick up any points, you can find yourself marooned in that bottom 3. And the way that we are playing at the moment, the attitude of some of these players at the moment, they're not in it for the fight. They haven't got the fight, the commitment. We'll end up finishing below Plymouth on current form. And not only will we get relegated, but we'll also be bottom of the league relegated by the looks of it on current form. So it's important that we're able to get it right. It's a brutal ask for Omar Rhys to expect him to make huge calls. You know, he's got to drop some experienced footballers, in some cases international footballers, but they're not doing it. Simple as that. Not just from a quality point of view, from an attitude point of view, it's been real poor. So it's time that we play these young players. You mix them up with the players who have given 100% and have played well. Your Rinamotos, your Callum O'Dowders, your Gutases. These people haven't let the fans down. Generally speaking, they've had the right attitude and they fought for the badge. So for me, that you keep those players, but you blood in some of these promising young players. And you look around, look at Sunderland, you look at Leeds, look at Watford to a certain degree. All of these teams, they play their young players. So, why shouldn't Cardiff play their young players? We hear constantly how good they are. Now's the time to show it. Now's the time to show it. One to watch for Cardiff City, obviously, is very dependent on the team which Omar Rhys goes with, because I could pick Kean Ashford, for instance, and he might not start him. I'm actually going to say that one of the key players for Cardiff is going to be Jesper Darland. Jesper Darland showed versus Swansea at a point where he had a few games behind him and he had played a few games for his previous club. So he came in, he was match fit. He came in and he looked absolutely delightful on the ball. He was physically strong. He was, looked good, really clever, able to break in the lines with his passing forward. He was very progressive in his passing, which is something we've really lacked since Turnbull's dropped out through injury, because Turnbull always looks to pass forward. And Darland does that from defence. He plays through the lines, and he quite often was able to find the midfielders in little pockets of space, and we were able to break through the opposition press. With Watford playing a similar system to us, I think having Darland and Fish in there could really benefit Cardiff tactically, not just defensively, because I think Darland's strong, he's athletic. Yes, he got bullied a little bit by Kiefer Moore, but he's not the first and he's not the last who'll be bullied by a big centre forward, particularly one who's as experienced as Kiefer Moore. So, I think Darland showed enough. We need to give him a bit of time to settle into the league. You've got to let him get used to playing in a different country. The Championship is like no other league. So just play him for a few games, and I have no doubt that he'll be absolutely fine. And I think he'll do very well for Cardiff. What will be interesting is how we set up the system. So defensively, obviously, when you're under pressure, you can drop it back into a 5. Pacquiao's pace could be a real benefit when Watford look to get down the sides of the play, look to get in between the wing backs and the 3. Pacquiao's recovery speed is great. Same with O'Dowda, and I think in the middle of the park, Rinamoto's been real reliable. And I think when you've got a reliable holding midfielder or a combative midfielder, hopefully that can allow someone who's got the technical ability and the quality that Alex Robertson has, who somehow managed to be fairly consistent in a problematic season and a very jumbled team and way of thinking. Somehow he still managed to be incredibly consistent. So, yeah, look, it's going to be a difficult one. We have to keep the faith as fans, but I'd be lying if I said it's going to be smooth sailing, Keep the faith. And as I said many times before, please do get behind the team, especially if he does play the young players. And I know you will. There's 1,000+ travelling to Watford. No game in the Championship is unwinnable. It's all about momentum. You can get one win by hook or crook, just scramble something. You can build on that. In my opinion, and I think many of you guys, it's time to give the young players a go. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And that ultimately it'll be on his head if he makes the wrong decisions or the right decisions, whether that's the young players or not. It'll come down to what he gets in these 2 games, in my opinion, because I believe that Vincent Tan can't take the risk. But I guess we'll see, because we haven't picked up any points yet in the festive period. We've been quite poor. Will Omar Rhys make the big calls? I'm not sure. But in the meantime, I bid you farewell. My prediction for the game is 2-1 Cardiff City. But there's obviously a lot of hope in that because I'm not sure Cardiff got 2 goals in them again. And defensively, I think we need changes, and I'm not sure that Omar Rhys will make those changes. But I guess we'll see, guys. Let me know your predictions for the result in the comments. But also let me know what you'd start. What would your starting lineup be for this game? Because a lot of people in the live chat of the Breakdown podcast yesterday was, I was seeing all sorts of. I saw a couple of people saying play Manny Barton from the start. Fish Darland as a 2 and drop all the defenders. Like there was all sorts of discussions, but people are fed up with the attitude and the mentality of the team. They want to see a change. So will we see a change? That is the question. Take it easy, my friends. We'll be back for post-match reaction with the 1927 pod after the game. I'm not sure what time it'll be. It'll either be 1927 or it'll be 9 o'clock. I'll speak to the boys and see what their plans are. I'll be back with the breakdown then the following day of some sort. It might be a slightly shorter one, depending on where we are in terms of scheduling. We've got some really good videos coming from Terry Phillips as well. He's got a history of Cardiff City video, as well as a 2-part video, the A to Z of Cardiff City. So there is lots coming on the channel. It's 7 days a week. Obviously, it's a big uptake in terms of time and scheduling and things like that. So if you are, enjoying the content and you want to see more from us and you want to see more Cardiff City related content, we have some plans to make some content around the 125 years because we believe that the football club has been quite underwhelming in their celebration of that. So we're going to try and create our own content, as well as talking about, in a January window, we'll be talking transfers and stuff like that. It's 7 days a week, all the time. So if you can, please do become a member. Patreon.com/AcePodcastNation is the preferred way for us, but not, it's not the only way. You can also be a member at the YouTube channel, Cardiff City World. Just hit join. There's a couple of tiers. It really does help us build the channel. The more members that we can get, the more content and the more imaginative we can get with the content in terms of what we do. But in the meantime, take care. Keep the faith. Come on, the Bluebirds.